This video focuses on the basic comparison operators that JavaScript provides us for programming. Now, comparison operators are used to compare the value or the value and data type of one variable to another, or one container that holds data to another container that holds data. And the operators that we're going to be focusing on are the basic comparison operators. So we'll be going over the equality operator, the strict equality operator, the not equal operator, and the strict not equal operator, as well as the greater than and equal to, less than, and equal to. So let's jump right in with the equality operator. In math, when we see the equal sign, just as in programming, we are stating that whatever is on the right-hand side of the equation is the value of the left-hand side of the equation. So if we're thinking about regular algebra, we've got x equals 5. When we see that, or we see y equals 6, what we are saying when we're all done calculating everything out and we find out what y is and what x is, we are showing that the value contained in x is 5 and the value contained in y is 6. So just like in algebra, in JavaScript, our variables are the containers, or they were at one point unknown, and then we find out what they are. And in programming, we actually start off usually knowing what our variables are going to be, or we get them through a database, a web service, or through calculations during the execution of the program. And then we have that data stored inside those variables. So very similar concepts to algebra. And if we make this look a little bit more like JavaScript, we got let x equal 5, let y equal 6. Now, this, as we've learned in the past, is the operating or the assignment operator in JavaScript. And just like we just discussed, 5 is assigned to x and 6 is assigned to y. And now x and y both hold those chunks of data in them for use later on in our program. In JavaScript, we have the ability to compare two variables, one to another, to find out if the contents that they hold are the same or are equal. And when we do those comparisons, we get back a Boolean value, so a true or a false. So let's start off with the standard equality operator, which is just equals to, and let's compare these. And let's plug the result into a variable that we can then print out to the console to take a look at. So let result equal, and then we are going to compare x and y. And we're going to say x equals y. And let's go ahead and send that out to our console so we can see the result. And then let's run it. All right. So the equality operator is a double equals. And all we're saying really here, you can think about it is x equal to y and is y equal to x. In other words, it's going both directions. We are checking to see if x is equal to the value in y and if y is equal to the value in x. And then we get a true or false response to that comparison or that operation. And as expected, if we look down here in our console, we'll see that the answer is false because the number 5 is not equal to the number 6. They are two different numbers. So let's go ahead and copy our console.log so that we can use it later on. And now let's look at the results here of doing a comparison of x being equal to 5. Now, we set x to 5 up here, which means inside of x we've got a 5, and now we are comparing it against 5. So if we look at that, we should get true back because the number 5 is equal to the number 5. And so if we run this code, we get a true, as expected. Now, one thing that you will run into in JavaScript is that the standard equality operator, it is an implicitly converting operator, meaning that it will take what is on either side of the operator, and JavaScript will then do a conversion of the data type to try to make the data types the same on both sides. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take result, let's take x, and let's ask JavaScript if x is equal to the string 5. And then let's go ahead and print it out. Now, if we're comparing these without executing the program yet, x containing the number 5, and we are comparing it against a string with the character 5. In other words, we're comparing a number to a string, and logically, those would not be equal to one another, except for in JavaScript, they are. And that is because behind the scenes, JavaScript will take the string and it will implicitly convert it or try to convert it into a value that is similar or of the same type as the other value that it is operating on. In this case, we have a number and we have a string, and JavaScript, the creators of JavaScript, found that a lot of times we are parsing numbers out of strings, and therefore behind the scenes JavaScript will automatically try to parse a number out of that string. Now, because that string actually does hold the character 5, it will successfully convert this string to a number, make the comparison, and then provide us with the result. And as you can see, the result is true. We can do a similar thing, and this time let's make it so that the string actually has no number in it. And now let's run it and see what happens. We get a false. So on our fourth log right here, it is taking the 5 that we have in here. It's taking this string. It knows it's making a comparison against a number. So it will try to parse a number out of the string. Being that it does not start with a number, it can't find a rational number to pull out of there. So it will then return false. In other words, they are not the same. Now, this can cause you problems as you are programming, since JavaScript is a dynamic language, and that strings could be stuffed into what you think is a number, and then you could make a comparison off of that. And if you allow JavaScript to do implicit conversion behind the scenes, it may actually find a number at the beginning of that string and then do a comparison, and you may get a true or a false that you are not expecting. This can cause a runtime error that can be really hard to debug because you have this implicit converting of one data type to another data type behind the scenes. The workaround, or the way to fix this, if you want to make sure that you are 100% explicit, in other words, when you are comparing two variables, you want to verify not only are the values that they contain identical, but the types, or the data type, is also identical. And that way you can be super sure that the quality that you're checking for is really actually there, that the whole thing is equal. So in JavaScript, the strict equality operator, so strict equality, is the triple equals sign. And what this tells JavaScript is that when you're doing this equality operation, do not try to alter the data types. In other words, when you do the comparison, both the value that is being held as well as the type of that value has to be identical for it to actually equate to true or be equal. So if we take these examples up here and we just copy them down and we switch them to the strict equality, and we execute that, we will see that x is not, right here we got a false, not equal to this string, and x is also not equal to a string that has the 5 in it. It's a false because it's not the same type. It may have the same value, in other words, the character 5, but this character 5 lives inside of a string, and this character 5 lives inside of a number. So the types are different, so it's false. Here, we've got the character 5 as a number, and we've got a character 5 as a number, therefore it is true. So this is the strict equality and then the non-strict equality operators. Now the not equals operators they function identically, just in reverse. We're looking to see if they are not equal. So the not equal that is not strict, so just the regular one, is the bang or the exclamation symbol. And this is the not equal operator. So let's take our exact same examples and let's do not, and then let's go ahead and execute that. And let's just comment. Let's comment these ones out really quick, just so that we don't get so many lines of output, so we can see clearly. The number 5, or the character 5 as a number, and the character 5 as a number, we're saying they are not equal. That would equate to false because those two really are equal. So we're saying, hey, are these two numbers not equal? Well, they are, so we get a false. The number 5, or the character 5 as a number, and then the character 5 as a string, with the non-strict not equals, because we have implicit conversion back here, which will turn this into the character 5 as a number, and then do the comparison, it's going to come back true if they're equal, and being that we're asking if it's not equal, because they are equal, we get a false back. And the third one right here, where we have just a string with no character numbers in it, and then the number 5, and we're saying, hey, is the number 5, or the character is the character 5 in number format equal to this string that has a whole bunch of other characters in it, but not the character 5? Well, if we look at those two, we compare them, they're not equal. And so we are asking, are they not equal? And the answer is yes, they are not equal. So we get a true. So always think about it that way, that not equals is the opposite, of course, of equals. So in this case, we are checking to see if something is not equal. So if they end up being equal, we're going to get a false. If they end up being not equal when compared, then we're going to get a true, because that's what we're asking the question about, is are they not equal? Now the strict comparison operator, or not equal operator, we just add an additional equal sign to it, and this lets JavaScript know that we are dealing with the strict operator, which means do not do any kind of type conversion when it gets executed. And we should see that we get a false right here, because the character 5 as a number and the character 5 as a number, they are equal to each other. Therefore, we get a false on this question, are they not equal? And because they're equal, it's false. Now down here, because we have no type conversion happening, we've got the character 5 as a number, and we've got the character 5 as a string. We're comparing those two. Because they are two different types, they are not equal. And therefore, we're asking the question, are these two not equal? Well, the answer is true. They are not equal. Same thing down here. The character 5 as a number against a string that doesn't even have a character 5 in it. They are definitely not equal to one another, and no type conversion has happened. Therefore, it's true. Those are not equal. All right. Now let's jump into, let's go ahead and comment these ones out so that they aren't in our way in our output. And now let's jump into greater than. This is just like you learned in your math classes. We're just talking about whether or not numbers are equal to or greater than one another. And so let's go ahead and work with our x and y. So x, let's say, is 10, and y is 35. And now we're just going to go ahead and do a comparison on this. And here's another way to quickly do it. Instead of trying to store it in a variable, we can just go ahead and say console.log. And then we'll just go ahead and execute our statements inside of console.log and have it just print out the results immediately for us instead of storing it in a variable temporarily like we have been doing. This is just showing you another way to quickly get some output into your console without needing to generate a bunch of variables. So x, is x greater than y? Well, if we look at that, x is 10, y is 35. Now, is x greater than y? Well, we should expect the answer to be false because 10 is definitely not greater than y. And let's go ahead and try out each of the operators. We can say greater than or equal to, and we can say less than, and then we can also do a less than and equal to. And let's run that really quick. We can see that 10 is definitely not greater than y, so we get a false. X is definitely not greater than, nor is it equal to y, so we get a false. X is less than y because 10 is less than 35, so that is definitely true. And then x is less than or equal to y. Well, that is still true because x is definitely less than or equal to y. So if we go ahead and change x to 35, and then we run our code again, we're going to go ahead and have those change up a bit. So is x greater than y? Well, no, it's not, because 35 is not bigger than 35. They're equivalent to one another. But in the next statement, we'll see that it is true because we are asking, is it greater than or equal to? Which means it only has to fit one of those two conditions. It's either bigger to be true, or else it is equal to it to be true. If it's less than, it's going to be false. Is x less than y? No, because 35 and 35 are the same. And here, is x less than or equal to y? Well, yes, they are equal to one another, so it meets one of those conditions. So here you're getting a single condition, and then you're getting a compound condition with an or in it. Either it is bigger than y, or it is equal. I hope you can see how that works. And those are your basic comparison operators provided to you in JavaScript. There are more advanced operators. I'll leave those to you to figure out.